All right, kids, you enjoy? That was absolutely delightful for me. I sat right in the hallway on my Apple box the whole fucking screen. If you've ever sat on an Apple box for more than 10 minutes, you know they're uncomfortable as fuck. So I was done with the cut of the movie and ready to show Sundance in like October. We submitted and stuff, and it was the 30th anniversary of Clerks going to Sundance. So I was like, it's a fucking no-brainer. I'm a legacy. Of course I'll fucking get in. It's a movie about loving fucking movies. Like, oh, it's made in the fucking shape. And then Sundance said no. So, no fault in, I'm not saying like, so fuck Sundance, let's get them. Like, they started my whole career. But it was a real shot in the fucking confidence where I was like, if I can't go home again, where the fuck am I gonna go? And then I started to think like, oh my God, maybe the movie fucking sucks. I mean, even yoga hosers got into Sundance. So I've been nursing that for a few months, going like, well, maybe the movie's not as good as I thought it was and shit. So, aside from like some of the really nice things people have written about the flick, sitting here and watching it with y'all, I'll be honest with you, you guys were right there with Vancouver. It was really lovely. So thanks, man, for like disamusing me of the notion. Sometimes you can't assign meaning to shit. Sometimes you just don't get into Sundance and whatnot. But it doesn't mean the movie isn't what you hoped it would be, because I sat there and watched it with y'all and I was like, that's exactly what I dreamed it would be, man. It was awesome. Another thing I wanted to share, kids. This place here, years ago, the landmark used to be the Lemley Sunset 5, for those of us who've lived in the area for a while. When I first started my career with Clerks in 1994, Clerks came to play at the Lemley Sunset 5. And, in the first few months, of course, it played fucking every day of the week and multiple shows and stuff. And then as time wore on, the shows scaled back, but eventually they kept it to Saturday nights, I think it was, Friday or Saturday nights at midnight. So Clerks played in this space for a total of 1 year. Like from when it came out until the Lemley was like, nobody's coming anymore. It was like 1 year of screenings. So when they were like, hey, we're gonna have a screening for the flick in Los Angeles, I was like, oh, I know just the fucking place. So it's kind of sweet to be here, man. I started my career here, and that sounded great. And I end it tonight. Oh my God! That's such a sweet movie, he fucking shot himself. Okay, look, I don't know if you know this or not, because I think we've kept it pretty subtle, but the main character is based on young me. And when you're like thinking about making a movie, of your life, which I've been doing since the beginning. Clerks was a movie about my life as well, my life at that time and whatnot. Brian O'Halloran was stand-in for me, and I've never felt like, oh man, I should have got somebody better. I thought Brian was absolutely perfect, but Dante is not truly me. Brian David is so close to me. Brian David is the name that my parents were going to give me when I was born. I had that name right up until the moment they found out, after I came out the chute, that there was another Brian David in the nursery. And my mother was like, this is New Jersey, they'll mix them up. And so she named me Kevin Patrick instead. So this journey with Brian David is like an alt-reality version look at the world that I came from and stuff like that. But yes, quasi version of me, probably the closest character to me I've ever written for the big screen. Prior to this, it was Holden McNeil. Now it's definitely Brian David. And finding somebody to play you is a quintessentially weird part of the job, to say the least. It's not something most people will ever encounter in their life. Maybe people make whimsy about it. Like, if they ever made a movie about me, who would play me and shit? We had to find somebody that was not only going to satisfy me, and I don't mean like satisfy me, but I mean satisfy me is like, yeah, that's fucking young me. More importantly, satisfy the audience and make people root for this fucking kid. And I found that actor in the Clerks 3. This kid had a part, and he played Blockchain Coltrane. And when we went to rehearse the movie, he had dialogue. Blockchain Coltrane had a bunch of dialogue in the movie. And after the first rehearsal, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna take all your dialogue away. And he's like, why? And I was like, because you're the last man in. Like, all the rest of these characters have been in Clerks and Clerks 2. You're the last one in, and I didn't write you anything nearly good enough to warrant that, man. Like, so people are gonna attack you because you don't have anything all that funny to say and you're the last man through the door. But if I take all your dialogue away and make you like a little Silent Bob, they'll love you to death and shit. And as an actor, naturally, of course, he was just like, okay, is this because I did such a bad job? I said, no, it's me. I did a bad job. I didn't write a strong enough part. I said, but I'll tell you what, I'm taking away all the dialogue now. One day, I'm gonna make a movie, you have all the dialogue. And it was the very next movie, man. If you're ever looking to find somebody to play a young, idealistic version of you and nail it, man. I mean, nail it. I sat on that set and watched the kid bring it to life. And there were moments where I was like, oh my God, like, it is young me. I remember fucking that kid. Well, not fucking that kid. I fucking remembered that kid. And the kid who played that kid did a phenomenal fucking job to do it, man. I could have searched high and low all over the world. I didn't have to. I looked in my daughter's bedroom. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the guy who played Brian David, one of my favorite actors on the planet, Austin Zajur. Get up here, man.
Thank you. I promise we don't have sex with each other.
All right, we're gonna open it up to you guys. What do you want to know, man? Hands in the air, waving like you just don't care. Bang, right there. We'll start here.
How did it feel bringing some life to Emo Kev?
How did it feel bringing some life to Emo Kev? For those that don't follow very closely, back in the days of early Smodcast, there's an episode called Emo Kev, or a bunch of the episodes were called, a collection of them were called the Emo Kev episodes, because there were recordings I had of me with a tape recorder biking around my hometown of Highlands, having these deep thoughts, like out loud and shit. So some of the dialogue that you heard Brian say was shit I actually said in real life, like on a tape recorder. And when we sat down to do that episode, I've never seen a human being laugh harder than when Scott Mosier heard me say all this shit as a child. Like when I literally say, I've got a 24 karat case of love, and Scott almost had a stroke laughing so fucking hard. He was like, oh God, you know, it was the height of cringe for him and shit like that. So I wanted to bring some of that shit in. It was real, you know, I was trying to go for authentic me and me from back in the day. And I'm, you know, still in contact with that, but it's been years, you know, but there I had this like all oral, A-U-R-A-L, conduit to the past. So I was like, I'm gonna pull from that. Now, the really sad thing is when I was biking around saying this shit, I wasn't 16, I was 22.
Yeah, it was right after he saw Say Anything. I figured it all out because he made me listen to this stuff. And it was pretty sad. It was not like what it was in the movie.
No. It was, that is true. It was delivered with no cool whatsoever. Like, you root for that kid when he's on the dock. You're like, oh, 24 karat case of love. The real life guy, you'd be like, keep him away from women. He's fucking terrifying. He's a stalker. So it was nice to be able to bring pieces of emo Kev and put them up there. At one point, I was like, oh my God, I should do the whole movie like that. But I was like, no, I'm just going to take some pieces. The thing that was vindicating, though, to say the least, is like, y'all just watched the movie, Bear McCreary did the score and he fucking crushed it. It's a beautiful fucking score. But him and his brother Brendan did the closing song. So like, you know, there's not a fuck ton of needle drop in the movie, especially for an 80s movie. Like I remember we went to the premiere of Air, Affleck's movie. Yeah. And the whole time I'm sitting next to him, man, like fucking that movie, one song after another. And they'll play like 20 seconds and then skip the dial to another classic 80s song. And I turned to him, I was like, the music budget of this movie has to be at least $50-60 million alone. They literally have every 80s tune. And here we were about to make an 80s movie, we just made it. No, we were about to make it. And I was like, well, we'll never be able to do that. So we were real careful. We picked like 2 songs that were kind of important to me. That was the one that opens the movie, I Can't Wait by New Shoes. And then when they're driving, the little montage, the Chaka Khan song, I Feel For You. So I knew we were gonna have to get those. Those were not expensive. The Chaka Khan song was the most expensive of the 2 songs, but still within our budget. But that was it. We were never going to be able to drop another needle on an 80s pop song because it would have been too expensive. But getting Bear McCreary, number one, he's got that whole score, which sonically takes up all the space where a needle drop was going to be. But also remember, lots of the movie takes place in movie theaters, so you don't need a lot of music because you're doing something. Something's always going on in the background and stuff. But at the end of the movie, you know, that would be a place where it's like, pick your favorite fucking 80s song and end that fucker. Bring this flight home and land it safely in the fucking nestled nostalgia fucking bosom of, like, I don't know, fucking The Police or something. He's wearing a police shirt the whole movie. To end with every little thing she does is magic. It just makes fucking sense if you have money. We didn't. So Bear was like, I got this. And so I had heard the score, you know, in pieces. He kind of started from the top, went to the bottom. So the opening piece where Brian's biking around, it's called A Very Unassuming Day. It's beautiful. Like I told Bear just today, I was like, when one thinks back on their childhood, you know, if there's music, it's the music of the, you know, that was on the radio of the day. But you never really think of a score for yourself or something like that. I was like, now for the rest of my life, all of my memories will be tainted by that music. I'll be like, oh yeah, that was happening when I was a kid. Like, it's just so profoundly powerful. So when he gave me that song, in a very 80s way, it hooks right back to that opening theme. The score is what the music that's made up of the track is. The track is a real earworm, and it's a banger. It's his brother Brendan singing it and shit in an almost Oingo Boingo-esque type delivery. But the song is called 24 Karat Case of Love. So once I heard the song, and it's not just the title, but it's the fucking hook, and he says it over and over again. And I was like, oh my God, man. I called him up, I was like, dude, you took the dumbest thing I ever said in my life, and you made a hook of it, man, like that. And he said, that's not dumb. He goes, dude, that's how 16-year-old boys think and feel, like they speak from the heart, and you did that. So he's like, that ain't dumb, that's a 16-year-old. And I was like, Bear, he was 22, but the sentiment is still the same. So I was delighted to bring a little piece of him in there, man. All right, where do we want to go next? Yes?
2 questions. Who did you base Melody off of, and who did you base Bernie off of?
Who did I base Bernie off of is, you'll see him in the movie, or you saw him in the movie. He's the guy that's interrogating Sister Sugar Walls. He's like, you're swimming around a toilet bowl, but you're a hooker. No. That's my friend Ernie O'Donnell. The character's named Bernie O'Donnell. I'm not very creative. But it's meaningful because he used to draw a little character called Bernie that he put on like all his shit. So when Ernie saw the script, he was like, you know, and it was like, it's kind of like a Mad Magazine version of your name, but it actually has meaning because the character used to draw. I grew up with Ernie. We went to that theater all the time, just like in the flick and whatnot. And Ernie now runs Smodcastle Cinemas. He's the guy, when you go there, he's in charge of the whole place and stuff like that. Melody Barnegat, based on my high school girlfriend, Kim Lochran. She's all 4 of, there's a Bellicose as well, Michael Bellicose, Belly, we'd call him Bells. But I would say of all the characters, like Austin is very close to me, without me ever being like, this is how you do Kevin Smith, which sounds way dirtier than I meant it. But he found a way in to evoke without it being like an impersonation, so to speak. Fucking Nick like is channeling Ernie O'Donnell. And he met him.
He had no idea that he was playing anybody also when he auditioned.
No, not at all.
And then when he got there, he was like, so I'm doing an Italian thing?
And Ernie's not even Italian.
He's Irish.
Yeah, it's crazy. But he met Ernie, talked to Ernie for like 5 minutes, and then dropped the first rehearsal. And I was like, holy shit. And it only got weirder as the movie went on. They palled around and shit like that. So he picked up more and more of Ernie. And it was really sweet. Like me and Ernie in high school, we never fought at the movie theater in the alleyway across from the movie theater, but we did have a fight in the hallway at school once, where it was more like he was fighting me as I was putting my books in the locker. I was like, Ernie, I don't want to fight, stop it. And there was a fucking crowd around us and shit. But Ernie did it because if he didn't kick my ass or try to kick my ass, there was no ass kicking, but there was the fight. Somebody else, an older kid, was going to do it. So he was kind of taking a bullet for me and shit. So as we're shooting this scene of the fight scene, like out in the alleyway, you know, and Ernie is like not an emotional guy. He doesn't wear his heart on his fucking sleeve. Like he's basically exactly what Nick did and stuff. He's the character of Bernie. But I looked over between takes, and these kids were fucking in it, man. Like fucking Austin and Nick during the fight scene were like, we did probably the most takes of anything we did.
Yeah, we sat on opposite sides of the street, like waiting to do the scene, and then we were just really hyping each other up, just like pushing each other.
Yeah, it's this kind of shit.
Being like, I fucking hate you, you piece of shit.
And I remember being like, just fucking make pretend, fuck. Like, but they put so much intensity to it. And I'm the kind of way I direct at this point in my career. Like, I'll get what I need because I'm not a director as much as an editor. Yeah, I don't think of myself as a director, neither do critics. I think of myself as an editor who just happens to be on set. So I sit there collecting my shots. And if in the first take I see everything I need to put a scene together, I'm like, great, moving on and shit. So I turn it over to them at that point. I was like, I got everything I need. If you guys want to go, we go again. And each time they were like, yeah, let's do one more. And they'd fucking psych each other up and fucking like do this kind of like that kind of shit.
Yep.
And so, their intensity shows up. Like, I remember, like, as I was in the editing room putting it together, I was like, I'm glad they did all this shit because it fucking feels very real. But I should have used as a monitor for what felt real, Ernie. I turned around and looked at Ernie's watching the whole scene. He's a producer on the movie. And he's watching the scene. I turned around after we did the one take and shit. And I was like, oh, that was great. And I look at Ernie, and Ernie's like, not this guy at all, but Ernie's like crying. And I was like, are you fucking serious? He goes, shut the fuck up. That boy's gonna win an Oscar one day. Really fucking sweet. So Ernie and Kim are kind of the basis for those characters. And Michael Bellicose, he's the one I would say of all the characters, the least, Reed, who played Michael, is the least like Mike in real life, like Bells in real life. Bells is like a taller, stockier, like fucking the guy that all the girls loved and stuff. And with Reed, what I was so into was I was like, oh my God, he looks like fucking John Connor's friend.
Yes.
Dan looks like Danny Cooksey, right? Like I saw fucking the first rehearsal, I was like, oh my God, we put a rat tail on that motherfucker. That could be very evocative. All right, where do we go next? Yes.
Two quick questions.
Oh wait, hold on. Didn't you have two? Yeah. Oh, I said both. Oh, there's the two people. All right, fair enough. Back to
You're
you.
wearing an Atlantic Cinemas t-shirt, aren't you?
I am.
Aha!
Yeah, we sell them at Smodcastle now. You can go online and buy them if you want and shit like that. You'd be helping a nonprofit organization.
You would be.
Thank you.
And I have to say, this was a sweet movie, and I was a 7-year-old in '86. Like, I was like the little girl in red on one of the front cards.
Oh man.
Oh my God. Anyways, how long did this take to film? And you were talking about you were doing rehearsals for her again.
Yeah, we rehearsed a little bit. Not
Me and Sienna did one over Zoom, just one
kids
time.
together, not even with me.
And me and Nick, like every other night, would rehearse with each other just because we're crazy.
I did one Zoom rehearsal. I remember doing one Zoom rehearsal.
No, but I made them
boys.
like at the hotel afterwards. Be like, we gotta rerehearse. Like
You would read
tomorrow
together?
stuff. Yeah, all the time.
How long it take? We were like, it was a quick shoot, man. It was like 15 days. We didn't have a lot of money and stuff. But the beauty of that place was, the first 5 days we were out in the world, shooting anything that took place outside the theater. Then we just lived in and around the theater for the rest of the shoot. So we didn't need to carry a bunch of trucks and do big company moves and stuff. We just set up base camp there for the entire shoot and would satellite out in the beginning. About less than 3 weeks in terms of shoot days. And then I was editing the flick as we were shooting it. So when we wrapped, we had a screening in the theater of everything that we had shot and I'd cut up until that point so they could watch a good 70 minutes of the movie or something. But it went fast. Production with us is generally very quick. It takes longer for them to put the movie out than for us to make it, because I love cutting while we're shooting the flick. That way you can see the movie unfold. You could show the actors, be like, look what you fucking did, and that inspires them too, because they can see what they're doing. Like, this is working. I want to do that. Keeping people in the dark and not showing them footage and shit. That's, to me, for everybody has their own way, but for me that seems counterproductive. Information is power. So if everybody's seeing what you see and they're seeing it from your perspective, hey, I've cut, it's not just footage, I've cut it together, look. that tells them where they could go and where else, how much higher they could take it.
Yeah, but also you don't sleep, so that's like why other people probably don't do that.
Yeah, during production, it's like I'm cruising on the volition of like, oh my God, my dreams are coming true. So I'll sleep for like 2 or 3 hours a night because I'll shoot all day and then I'll edit until I collapse and stuff. Because I just want to see the movie. Like, think about it. My whole life I've wanted to see the movie. And so it's like, now we're fucking close. I have the footage. Like, I don't want to go to sleep. I want to put it together and be like, that's exactly what I hoped. Yeah.
So, I graduated in '86, so I just loved everything about this.
Oh, right on.
For Austin, you had a lot of pop culture references.
Yes.
What did you research them? Did you watch? What were you watching to get in the 1986 mode?
I watched every John Hughes film. I watched there are so many insane references that if you try to look them up, like there's so many. The version that he was thinking of would be a very specific like clip that would be so hard to find, and me and Nick had trouble with it sometimes. But I watched every like Poltergeist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, every mention of every flick in the film, and then Weird Science, weirdly enough, was one that I would just go to bed to it every night because I felt like it captured, in a sense, like Brian David for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it inspired me.
I saw Weird Science at that theater.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. You know what? I got nothing to add. He was fantastic. Yes.
Hi, 2 things. First off, it was a great movie. Film
Thank you.
This is a great
Where are you from? What part of Jersey?
Newark, New Jersey.
Fucking Newark, man. That's where my people came from too. Fucking A, man.
2 things. First off, have you kept in touch with your girlfriend?
Kim Lochran. She's in the flick. If you look in the background, she was there. She helped us cast. We shot in the same pool that her and I fucking swam in when we were kids.
That was the same pool?
Same fucking pool.
What?
Yeah. I mean, it's been years later, so my genetic material walked on. They have a really good filter system. Absolutely. But yeah, we shot China Taste. Well, now it's called New Beijing or something. But the Chinese food place, that's where Kim worked when I called her. That fucking call, like, all happened and stuff.
Oh my God, pork roast?
Yeah, the 6.5 almond cookies, like that exactly. I was like, 6.5 almond cookies in your hand in marriage. And she was like, this is Kevin fucking Smith. Right? So China Taste was the real place. The house that Melody lives in, Melody's bedroom was Kim's high school bedroom and stuff. So when I was making the flick, she was incredibly helpful. She still lives in the area, so she's like, oh, I can get this, I can get this, I can get this. So it helped it like weave together something that, you know, when people watch it, they're like, that's a location. But when I watch it, I was like, that's the actual fucking pool and stuff. Yeah. But she obviously like really digs the movie, man. You know, it captures this fucking moment from years and years ago.
Absolutely great.
Yes, sir.
2 questions. Brett, it was more about the girl that worked at the movie theater, and like, is she based on someone, and did she actually become a filmmaker, or anyone that we know?
Are you asking if she becomes a filmmaker, like when the
Genesis.
movie's done? But you're just asking, like, fan fiction wise, like, what happens to her?
Yeah.
I love that. I never get questions like that. But what happens after the credits? Because I'll make it up right now. That's Genesis Rodriguez. I've worked with her since Tusk. She was Justin's girlfriend in Tusk. She gives that amazing monologue to the camera when we first meet her, where the day we were shooting it, wasn't even really in the script. Like, I remember before she got there, she was talking about, like, I'm Catholic, and it seems weird that my character's this, like, without motivation and shit. And I was like, let me see if I can work on it. So the next morning, I wrote, like, this monologue for her character to deliver, which covered, like, everything she kind of had issues about. And so I told her, I texted her in the morning, I was like, hey, man, when we're done shooting the scene, we're shooting with you, like, at the end, if you can, I want to try to grab this monologue. I texted it to her, and she was like, oh, God, I can do this. So we went and shot the scene. It was her first day, and her first scene in the movie and stuff. And then when we were all done, I said, hey, can I get one camera? Everything else can wrap up, so I want one camera. And Genesis is going to deliver a monologue straight to camera, right down the barrel. And, everyone else is packing up because it's been a long day and stuff. And we're off to the side with Genesis sitting on the bed, and she just starts acting. Now, Genesis comes from the world of telenovela. So she's a fucking ninja. Those telenovela people shoot more fucking footage than Judd Apatow. And that's saying a lot. Shit. So they're absolute fucking warriors, like absolute fucking soldiers who know how to do emotion at the drop of a hat. For example, at one point during production, Genesis, we were talking about like how she could cry and stuff. We were like, oh, it's fucking amazing, man. She's like, I could just do it. Like, because like, how do you get there? She's like, I can just do it. She's like, my father can make his hair stand up on his arm without doing anything, and I can just cry if I have to. She's like, I could even cry if you were telling me a funny story and I'm laughing. We were like, bullshit. And so I brought over Jay, and I would say some fucking shit to her. Jay was being Jay and saying funny shit, and Genesis was sitting there laughing hysterically, and out of nowhere, she starts bawling. It was like the most unsettling fucking thing. And she was like, I've had enough. And I was like, yeah. She was like, it's just that simple, So in her monologue to camera, like, she devastates the room. Like, everyone was busy working and shit, and there was just a small satellite crew of us shooting this thing. But her performance is so fucking strong and so emotional. And one fucking take, and we were doing the slow kind of creep in on her. Everyone stops working and they just start watching and shit. And when she was done, everyone applauded and shit. And I was like, God damn it, man. Like, so I've loved Genesis forever. She can deliver like fucking nobody's business. Now, this character didn't exist in the script until about a week before we shot the movie, which is criminal because that's the whole fucking movie hangs on that moment at the end of the day. But it wasn't in the script. What had happened was I was walking in Highlands, Atlantic Highlands. I was hiking and stuff, trying to do my fucking 10,000 steps. And so I got a text that said from what I assumed was George R.R. Martin, because in my phone he is GRRM and stuff. And George had been to the theater and done a show with us and whatnot. So he reached out periodically and would send me like, hey, my dragon show's beginning. I was like, yeah, I'll get the word out. I think you're gonna be fine. So, I get this text, it's like, hey, how are you? And I was like, oh, fucking it's George. And I was like, I'm great, man, how are you? And I just read that he had seen Barbie, like in a weird article, like George R.R. Martin went to Barbie and loved it. So I was like, hey man, I saw you saw Barbie, isn't it great? I thought it was great. And then the person wrote back, yeah, Barbie was great. And then they wrote like, I'm gonna be in Jersey this summer. And I said, well, that's nuts because we're gonna be making a movie in Jersey at the movie theater. Do you wanna come do a cameo? And the person wrote back, yes, but do you know who this is? And I was like, yeah, and then I was like, well, let me look, because I was about to write George. And George R.R. Martin in my phone is GRRM. Genesis Rodriguez is just GR. So it was a text from Genesis. And so I was like, of course I know it's you, Jenny. I wouldn't have asked you to be in the movie otherwise. And she's going, would I have lines? And I was like, yeah. Yes, of course, it's a great part. And you got lines? I wouldn't ask you to come if you didn't have lines, of course. And she's like, great, like, let me talk to my people and stuff. And I was like, okay. And we hung up, and instantly I was like, I gotta write her a part. And I was so glad I did, because like suddenly she didn't exist in the whole movie. And then suddenly I was like, all right, well now I know where I want to go with her. And I know she could be in a bunch of scenes without me having to rewrite the whole fucking movie. She could just be like Boba Fett to his Darth Vader. She's always kind of lingering in the background, leaning on walls and shit like that. And then when the time comes, she got something kind of profound to say. So it was a happy accident that I mistook her for George R.R. Martin, made the movie fucking better, man. I told George R.R. Martin that, and he goes, well, everything I touch becomes better, Kevin. So Genesis came in and absolutely fucking crushed. She was there for like 4 days and just appearing in the background for a lot of scenes, but that was her big scene. And that day, like, I think we did maybe like 3 takes, and we only did 3 just because I love that scene so much. And I was like, let's do it again. So when it was all finished, like, somebody close to me was like, oh, that's your sister. And then I was like, that's where it came from. Like, my sister was the one who told me, like, I remember telling her, she went to college and stuff. I stayed mostly home. My sister's 5 years older than me. So she was always checking in on me, like, what are you doing with your life? You should have promised. Why are you just hanging out with mom and dad and shit like that? And so one day when she asked that, I had seen Slacker, and suddenly I was like, maybe I want to be a filmmaker and shit. I was 21. And I saw her and she did the check-in. She was like, how you doing? What you been up to? And I was like, I saw this movie called Slacker, and I described everything about it. I said, it made me think I could be a filmmaker. So it's like, I think I want to be a filmmaker. And she goes, great, you should be a filmmaker. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I think I want to be a filmmaker. She goes, yeah, well, be a filmmaker. I was like, yes, that's what the conversation's about. What am I missing? I want to be a filmmaker. She goes, then be a filmmaker. I was like, what fucking mind game is being played here? And she goes, just be a filmmaker, Kevin. You talk about wanting to be a filmmaker. She's like, don't want to be a filmmaker, be a filmmaker. With every thought that you have, with every action throughout your day, don't do it as Kevin, do it as the filmmaker, Kevin Smith. You're a filmmaker, you just haven't made your film yet. And I fucking stuck, so much so, and I've lived such a bigger life that when I wrote that scene, didn't even think about my sister once, man. Thankfully, because the character's named Hot Usher, so it'd be weird if I was thinking about my sister. But that person that's like, who sees you, like that's what I love about that scene. Brian, his friends know him, but the Hot Usher, for lack of a better name, we never gave her a name, Genesis' character sees like Brian David and just gives him a moment of like, not like everything changes right now, but just gives him the notion of like, maybe it is something you could do. I'm gonna do it. Every time she talks about fucking Martha Coolidge, it breaks me up. Like I was sitting there crying when she mentioned Martha Coolidge. I love Valley Girl so much, and every movie I make that has heart is me trying to remake Valley Girl from like the way it made me feel when I was a kid. And I was lucky enough to like interview Martha once, like at MoMA. Was it MoMA? Or no, not MoMA. The Alice Tully Hall, New York, not the New York Film Festival, the New York Film Society. We did a podcast series called Moviola. So we did like Buckaroo Banzai, and talked to Peter Weller and John Lithgow. For Jersey Girl, we talked to Frederick Elms, and we talked to Martha Coolidge, and Debbie Foreman was there, played the Valley Girl in question. It was a great fucking night. So while she was there on stage, this is a person, I absolutely adore their work. Like Martha Coolidge not only did Valley Girl, she had like 3 bangers in a row, man. She did Valley Girl, she did Real Genius, which is a fantastic fucking film, and she did Rambling Rose. Like 3 movies that really fucking put a dent in the culture at the time. So I was talking to her like when we were doing the post-screening Q&A at Lincoln Center, and I was like, why? Like, how come you don't like work now? You just over it? And she's like, they won't let me. I was like, what do you mean? She's going, there comes a time, Kevin, when the phone stops ringing and people just aren't interested in you because you're older and youth is king, particularly in this business. That made me so fucking sad, man, because like, think of all the experience that she has as a storyteller. And just when she fucking came into her prime, which is saying something, because those 3 movies I mentioned are absolute fucking classics. But the older one gets, it's inexhaustibly true. You get more experience, you get better at the thing that you're trying to get good at and stuff. So here's somebody in the prime of their fucking career, could do anything. Probably do the job better than she did it at a time when everyone loved what she was doing, where there was no room for improvement. And still, she could be better, but the phone ain't fucking ringing. That terrified me. That made me think like, you know what, I'll always keep like fucking a foot and a half in the indie world. I ain't gonna leave my future up to somebody who's not gonna fucking call me. If they won't call fucking Martha Coolidge, who's a fucking 1,000 times better filmmaker than I'll ever be, like one day that phone's gonna stop for me, but I may not be ready to stop yet. I will go back to the audience one day. I came from the audience, and I will be happy to return to the audience and not fucking bother anybody with my bullshit films anymore. But until when that day comes, I want to make that choice. I want to be like, I've said enough, I'm done. Like, I don't want somebody being like, you've said enough, you're done. I didn't start with anybody's permission, and I'm not gonna finish with anybody's permission. I'm gonna finish on my time and my dime. So putting her in there, putting that in there like just means fucking everything to me, because sooner or later, Martha's gonna run into that. You know, somebody's probably going to call her up. I don't have her fucking number, so I can't reach out to her and stuff. But somebody in her world is going to be like, I think they're talking about you in the movie. And it'll fucking thrill her, man. I was a different kind of director, right? Like, I'm a director who turned himself into the show, into the brand and stuff. So lots of my stuff gets graded on the curve because they're like, well, I didn't like it so much, but I love him. He's a good guy and shit. I made myself known as a director because I came from a unit, Miramax, where the director was put forward. They sold the filmmaker because you'd have movies that didn't have stars in them, so you couldn't send some famous person out there to sell it. But who better than the fucking filmmaker who made that film, sweat and toil, to go out there and speak for that movie and sell it, man? It's a charming story. This kid made a movie by himself. Let him go out in the news and talk about it and shit like that. So I built myself a brand over 30 years where, like, you know, I can go like, I'm gonna put on a show and people will fucking show up. Some other people don't have that fucking luxury. People that are far more talented than me. So it's not a game of like who's best or who's great at this and shit like that. Life is not a fucking climb. It's not a ladder. There's nobody below you and there's nobody above you. Life is a lateral fucking walk, and sometimes people are ahead of you, but they're on a completely different fucking journey than you. Doesn't mean that they're better, doesn't mean that they're winning. Just means that they're up there and you're here and stuff. To be told that like your journey is over because we don't find you commercial enough or something like that, that would fucking kill my soul. So I threw that in there not just because I feel that way, but like one day she's gonna run into it and she'll remember how fucking cool she is. And there's a good chance Martha Coolidge probably knows exactly how fucking cool she is, but I don't care who you are in this fucking world, you can always use some fucking stranger out of nowhere just being like, you fucking rule. It helps, man, it helps.
Wait, so are you saying that the hot usher ended Martha Coolidge's career? Because she made
in the fucking story?
Yeah, in the fan fiction.
We
like
can read the
line.
fan fiction right now. Hot Usher grows up to destroy Martha Coolidge's career. And she's like, the only way I can be better than you is to become you, you know. Scanners happens and then fucking credits. No, you know, if we were ever to do a fucking series of these, one day he'd encounter her again. You know, at a film festival or something like that. She's gonna make her dreams fucking come true, if I have anything to say about it. Even if we don't make and we won't make a sequel or anything like that. But in my head and heart, that's Greta Gerwig, man. Like, she's gonna change the world. She can make a movie so fucking profoundly commercial to begin with, something I could never do, but something that also connects, like, with the heart and the head of cultural phenomena. That motherfucker sat there and watched movies forever. You know, not because she wanted to work there, just because she's a student of film. She's gonna do great. It's so weird to have a conversation about a fictional character, but yeah, she's gonna do great. That's a great question. Yes.
So one for each of you. Kevin, what does Grace think of her portrayal of the character? And Austin, like, what are Harley's thoughts of you playing Kevin? Is this weird for her at all?
I don't know, Harley.
Let's ask her. Is it good?
We can find out.
It is, yeah, it's weird.
The kid was really great, man. In the beginning, when the project begins life early, with me going, I want to make a movie about the young me. And I was like, I think you should play the part. I want you to yentl this shit, man. Be a girl playing a fucking boy. And she's like, never. I was like, well, who knows what you better do? She's like, Dad, please don't make me do that. And I was like, all right. And then I was like, well, fucking step aside. There's Austin. He'll be good. So then I started writing the script knowing that I was writing for Austin. We'd worked together on not just Clerks 3, but on the Sun and Lockdown thing, on Celebrity Show Off during the pandemic. So, you know, I was like, oh my God, he can totally do this. And so I wrote him, you know, the part of Brian David, and I was like, oh, he's fucking going out with Harley, how adorable. I'll fucking have her be Melody Barnegat, and then they'll, you know, be able to act together in the movie, and just like they act together in real life, they can kiss, but for fake, and I'll watch. So I give the script to him, and he's just like, oh, fuck yeah, this is great. And I give the script to Harley, and Harley's like, Dad, I don't want to play your high school girlfriend. She's going, I've been in therapy since I'm 12. I don't need to add that to shit. So I was just like, you know what? I get it. She, it was longer than that. Like she had this like big, she wrote me a huge fucking text, very meaningful, covering all bases from the heart text about saying no, where she's like, I appreciate everything you do for me. I appreciate that you fucking wrote me a part in a movie. But like, this is not me saying fuck you in your movie. This is just me saying like, as hard as it is for me to pass, I know it's not the right thing for me to do and stuff, but I still want to be in it if I can. I was like, great, who do you want to be? She's like, the hooker nun.
That was my idea. I was pushing for her to do that.
Were you?
Yeah. I was like, this will be good.
Play the hooker nun and bring home the costume. I remember the thing, this is a tale told out of school and shit, but like the thing that Harley had texted me, I was having a conversation with Affleck, this was going back to like last year, via text and stuff. And he was talking about, what are you doing? And I was like, wow, we're fucking making this movie and stuff like that. He's like, is your kid in it? Because he loved her in Jay and Silent Bob reboot. I was like, she's in it, but she's not gonna be like one of the big parts. He's like, why not? And I was like, wow, and I told him the story that I just told you. And he's going, bullshit, fucking no way she wrote you something like that. And I was like, all right. And so I literally screenshotted what Harley wrote and sent it to Ben, surprise. And Ben wrote back, and it was like so moving to me. He goes, Jesus Christ, if you're not trying to be this person in life, what is the fucking point? He's going, this kid loves you. He's going, it is aching how much love and respect she has for you. Even if she's passing on being in your movie, he's going, you can feel all the love. And he's going, plus, she's smart to pass on being in a Kevin Smith movie. He's like, never helped my career one iota. All right, where else do we want to go? Cap.
How much did you cut out? It's a pretty tight runtime.
It's very trim. What was
I
the
cut a lot out. And I would say, honestly, that the version you sent to Sundance was an entirely different movie, I'm pretty sure.
No.
Was it not?
No. Entirely different as
There-
much
you
as it
didn't have a
didn't have the
score?
score. Well, that's it.
No, but I feel like, I don't know, you showed me it, and I feel like it was different. I don't know what you cut out. But
Before it went anywhere, like I cut out the donut thing in the beginning, which was such a fucking good decision. There was a moment where after, he's making that jelly donut, in the beginning when he's on the phone, he's having this real wholesome phone call. Then when he got off the phone, he fucked the jelly donut. And, I was like, this is kind of hack, man. They did this with a pie 20 years ago. So we shot it, and the whole time we were shooting it, I was like, it's funny, but it really takes away from, like, how sweet the guy is. Like, it was just like, will you go on a date with me? And she's like, yeah. He's like, bye. Oh, what the fuck? Like, you're not gonna root.
honest.
I guess, but you're not gonna root for that fucking guy. So like, that went away. And then also, like, since the script was like 75 pages, it wasn't a very long script at all.
81.
Is that what it was? 81 we shot with? That doesn't leave you a lot of room to cut if there's shit to cut. But still, there were things that I was like, man, I could lose it, Even now as I watch it, I was like, I can get this bitch down to an hour. And I know I've seen some of the reviews where people are like, it's a tight 80 whatever minutes and shit, like mentioning the running time. And I'm not like one of those people that's like, all movies should be fucking short, but all Kevin Smith movies should not be long. Like, you're really impositioning people by being like, come out to a Kevin Smith movie. You don't want to sit in there longer than 90 minutes, man. Like, Dogma, yeah, but that was like early, better Kevin Smith. The older I got, the shorter the movies got. That tells the story. All right, where are we gonna go? Yes. Yeah.
In the vein of like Machete or Thanksgiving, would you take Sister Sugar Walls?
Oh, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Like, of any of them, Sister Sugar Wall. Well, we already got like a few minutes shot, so saves so much money. But that one would be fun, like imagining a whole adventure for it. It is based on, for anybody from the 80s, would probably recognize Angel. There was a series, a mini-series, 3 movies. Started with one called Angel, and the poster was almost like the poster in the movie where it shows like a high school girl on one side and then a hooker on the other. It says like high school honor student by day, hooker by night. So that's where Sister Sugar Walls came from. And I remember telling Harley, she was like, I'm gonna play Sister Sugar Walls. I said, yeah, so you should watch this trailer. And Harley watched the trailer for Angel. She goes, that movie looks tremendous. You could watch it exists and shit. But that one, oh, that'd be great, man. You can make that so cheap too. Like fucking the other one, Health Nut, you could probably do cheap too. But the booties be more expensive because special effects. But the Sister Sugar Walls, yeah, it's just fucking cop drama with little religion mixed in and shit. Be a fine follow-up to Red State. Yes, all the way up top. Sure.
I just want to say I love how nostalgic you are that you saved that theater and you kept the original seats. You're now my officially favorite movie maker.
Oh my God, thank you.
And my friend and I, a friend to the left, we're thinking about making a documentary next year.
Yeah.
Do you have one good piece of advice for us?
The thing I always say to creatives all the time, young and old, man. I used to be young when I was a kid because it used to be the domain of youth to go out there and be creative and fucking like change things. But now we know that like anybody, you can be late in life, you can be like fucking 50 and realize that you want to fucking make a film. If you sat in a movie theater and watched movies all the way through the credits, not expecting Thor to show up or some shit, you know, like my sister said, you're a filmmaker, you just haven't made your film yet. So your voice is your currency is the thing I like to say. And your voice is, of course, what you spit back at the world after you take it through the prism, your filter, how you take everything in, how you spit it back to the world, how you explain life and yourself. That's your voice, man. Your voice is your currency. I've only been doing this job 30 years, not because I'm fucking good at it, not by any stretch of the imagination, it's because I have a distinctive voice from the beginning. People were like, oh, I like what he has to say. And not just the dialogue and shit, but just the perspective, the view askew, if you will. That has sustained me for 3 fucking decades. Even when the movies didn't work, the voice works, man. Like if you're young, enjoy it, because one day you're gonna be old and then you die. If you're pretty, enjoy it, because one day you're gonna age and not be as pretty to people and shit like that. But your voice, that only gets more clear. It only gets better with time. It doesn't corrode, it doesn't break down. It gets more experienced. So that voice is valuable, you know, and a lot of people, of course, when they enter a thing for the first time, there is safety in mimicking what has gone before, particularly if it's successful. It could be a recipe for success, absolutely. But my point has always been, like, there's no guarantee anything anybody ever makes is ever going to find an audience, or the audience ever shows up. I don't care who you are in this business, even Kevin Feige, the guy who oversees the Marvel Cinematic Universe and whatnot, one of the most prolific fucking producers in the history of fucking cinema and shit, the only Kevin who must be saved at all costs. Even Kevin Feige, who has had a string of success, movies make billions and billions of dollars and shit, right before Deadpool Wolverine came out on Thursday night and shit, clenched his asshole really tight going, fucking hope this works. Because you don't know, anything could fucking happen, anything could go wrong. So, if you don't know what the future's gonna be, might as well die on the cross of originality. You have something to say that nobody's ever heard before. They've heard, and my voice, they've seen every fucking trick that I have. You know, it's like, oh, I get it, it's all variations on Clerks to some degree and shit. But that sustains me, I keep going and whatnot. Who they dream about is you. You know, a lot of people like to say about the fiction narrative business, like, oh, Hollywood, they just make sequels and remakes. Well, of course they do. Those pay the bills. But they don't dream about making those movies. They dream about you walking in and telling them the story they never fucking heard before. Like, you know, the modern day Wachowskis who step through the door and they're like, guess what? Matrix, and everything fucking changes. You're who they fucking dream about over there, not me. They know what I can do. They don't know what you can do. And your voice is your currency that's going to get you there. Because the thing that you see, nobody else has ever seen before. How you see it is so fucking unique. Uniquity is what's, you know, a couple of years ago, they took fucking a really cool word and tried to make it negative and use it us against each other. But snowflake was the term. I love snowflakes, man. They're all fucking individuals. They ain't one like the other. Like, you're all fucking snowflakes as far as I'm concerned. I don't mean that in a political way. Like, everybody's so fucking individual and unique, and everyone has a unique and individual story to tell. So if your voice is your currency, spend it. Like, that will never go away. You will never run out of that money. It's like a Scrooge McDuck fucking vault, man. You swim in it forever, that currency. Go out and fucking spend it. Show them something they've never seen before because it's yours. Hold on one second, go here, yes.
Yes, two things.
Yes.
One, thank you for the photo outside. You made me have that moment like Bernie did with Major Murder. That moment, I had it right there. So thank you very much.
If you have to ask, then you're up to the task.
The two things. One was your Easter egg, the movie with the whale in the movie.
Moby's, how great that you picked up on that. There's a restaurant in my town right next to Bars, which is a pretty famous seafood restaurant. Like The Sopranos shot a commercial there fucking a couple of years ago. It's been at Bars on the shore since fucking time immemorial, since the turn of the century. If you go to the restaurant, there's a picture of them at the turn of the century, all looking hungry and poor and shit. It's been there forever in the little town of Highlands. People that own Bars opened this little restaurant, more of a deck dining affair that does like fried clams and shit like that, and ice cream, called Moby's, like as in Moby Dick. Their symbol was a whale. But if you look at the front of Moby's, like, you know, they used a porthole as a window and they used that as their O. But the letters look very much like movies. That wasn't us referencing movies. That was movies stealing from Moby's years ago. So to be back there looking at it, I was like, oh yeah, we stole their lettering and shit. But that wasn't an intentional, like, hey man, it's a movies reference. That's literally, that place exists in town.
And number two, so I'm a big fan of yours. I like the many faces of Kevin Smith, but I like mainly, you know, the writer of Kevin Smith. So I like all your monologues that you do. Chasing Amy, one of my favorite movies, and then you always get me with the in Reboot, Ben Affleck's monologue that he does.
One of my favorite things I've ever written. Also something that came in like 3 days before we wrapped. Didn't exist in the script until we shot it.
You ever thought of putting your writing to actual movie about, you know, a real life person? Because you haven't done that yet.
Like a biopic kind of thing?
Yeah, because I mean, I've seen a lot of, well, besides yours, but yeah, you know, because I've seen some more recently. It doesn't hit the feelings like, you know, some of the past, you know.
Right.
But I think that you would be, you know, awesome just to.
I think if I was into somebody, if I was more interested in, this is going to sound gross, if I was more interested in somebody other than me, I might be able to capture somebody else's life. But at the end of the day, they got really talented people who do that. Like, there are very talented people who know how to do a biopic about somebody and encapsulate their life in 2 hours and shit. Ain't nobody ever gonna make a Kevin Smith biopic except Kevin Smith, and he tends to try to make it every time. Like, that's the way I've always looked at cinema. Everyone has their own approach and whatnot. But for me, it's always been about grabbing snapshots of where I am at the moment that I made it. And this is a weird snapshot because the moment we made it was now, but it looks back at another time. But I guess that's what happens. The older filmmakers get, they start going more introspective. But for me, I've always been introspective. I've always been navel-gazing since the first fucking movie. And I don't know that I'm interested in stopping. Like, that's my artistic journey. That's what I want to say. I want to share my head and heart and what goes on in them and shit like that. That's the arrogance of every fucking entertainer. Is like, you have this gene that others don't, that makes you believe that everyone needs to hear what's on your head and heart at any given moment. Like, the world needs to know this. It results in shit like this. But I don't know if it can result in, like, Lincoln by Kevin Smith.
Stan Lee.
Oh, you're right. There is somebody I'm more interested in than me. Yeah, somebody asked me that. Somebody actually offered me a Stan Lee biopic, an independently produced one and stuff.
Do it.
No, I don't think I don't think I'm the guy. I may be too close to the subject matter. You know, somebody at one point was talking about a George Carlin. We're good, but you can get that one if you want. If you want to swap that one. They offered me a George Carlin biopic as well, and I was like, I'm too close to that as well. Like, I know that subject matter too intimately. And the idea of bringing somebody's life down to moments, I don't know.
Then why'd you cast me in this movie?
Because you were the right man for the job. Like, fucking, you have that innate sweetness. Whenever I watch that movie, I fall in love with not just you a little more, but that character, which makes me go like, I love me. And fucking the fact that you could somehow make me love me more, like, that's a gift, man. No, but when I watched the flick, particularly the end, like, this is I was sold on Austin as an actor, obviously, I cast him in the flick. But I was sold on you as a fucking talent that's going to continue by the end scene. After he clicks off that tape recorder and he tells her like that he just wants to, she's the coolest girl he ever met and he just wants to watch movies with her. Like Austin teared up while we were shooting. He gets glassy eyed. And it's not called for in the script. We didn't talk about it. I wasn't like, hey man, make sure you get super emotional. But it was so fucking moving. And at the same time, I was like, that's so fucking true. If I'm known for anything at this late juncture in my career, it's crying at everything. And without even asking, he brought that, man, because he was there in the zone in the moment. When I saw that, I was like, I'll put him in everything for the rest of my life, man. But I won't get a chance because other people are going to start casting the fuck out of him. And then he'll get real expensive. I'll have to use my daughter against him. Get him back in the movie. But yeah, I'm telling you, that glassy-eyed shit at the end just does it for me. I'm like, that kid is so fucking earnest. And I remember that kid was fucking earnest. So, I don't know, excellent job.
Excellent job to you.
We have to
kind of have to wrap it up.
All right, so we'll do like one more and get the fuck out of here. Yeah, you think you have the ending question?
All right.
Who's got a good one?
Yes. So this movie is clearly about a time when it didn't matter if the movie was any good.
Yeah. Hopefully we still live in that time.
But going to the movies was
the experience.
Was the experience.
Yeah.
Didn't matter if the movie was crap or not.
100%.
Do you think that time is over? Do you think that we'll ever have that again, or do you think now, just because of streaming and everything?
I think people do the same thing at home. They'll watch whatever's on. I mean, historically, that's always been the case. I don't.
Have sex while they're watching.
Yeah, and do other things. What is the practice now? There's a term of art called second screen. I went to pitch a show. This is batten down the hatches, creatives. This is interesting. So I went to pitch a show, and they were like, "It's not second screen enough." I was like, what is second screen? They're like, second screen is a program that the audience is able to be on their phones and social media while they're watching. This is too interesting. They would have to pay attention. That's so fucked up. Never in my entire career in 30 years has anybody been like, don't make it interesting, otherwise they'll watch it. They just want a second screen program because those go through the roof, man. Like, for example, they didn't make this, but Friends, when it was on Netflix, was a second screen program. Kids have all seen it so many fucking times, they just put it on while they do other things. Most of the programming that they want to see, apparently, generationally speaking, is a show that they can tune into but not pay attention to. So now those of us who would like to stay in this business have to kind of figure out a way to shift into that gear where it's just like, it's just interesting enough for them to choose it and then not really follow it all that closely. So yeah, it's a weird fucking time. But I don't think movie theater is ever gonna go away. I think, like Broadway, it'll probably get more expensive, because the audience is gonna shrink, but the bills are gonna stay the same, if not go through the roof even higher as time goes on. And so I think the movie-going experience will get pricier and pricier, as it already has. I know at our theater, Smart Castle Cinemas, primetime show is $10 because if we charged any more, nobody would come. You generally go see the movies throughout the day for $5 to $7, depending on what it is. So I don't think movie theater is going to go away. I do think, bless you, that the experience you're talking about, which these kids kind of enjoyed in this movie, is now found like mostly at home, for better or for worse or something like that. But I don't know, man, like for me, this was, I was raised Catholic, so I went to church like every fucking Sunday. But that was their church. Then after we went to their church, we would go to my church. And that's where I found my faith, the faith that has sustained me all the way up to this exact moment in time. That's the only congregation I ever needed. We don't really gather that much anymore. We're all isolated and everybody's in a fucking phone and whatnot. That's why second screen is a fucking thing. But this is a matter of faith. This is an act of faith, a leap of faith, man. I'm gonna fucking gamble and go sit with a bunch of strangers who may have fucking COVID for all I know, and watch this adventure and this story. Somebody's gonna tell me this made up bullshit. I'm gonna watch it with all these strangers, and I'm looking for a communal experience, man. The same way that people, the faithful, turn to a religion or go to church to find that type of experience. I've always found it in rooms very much like this. As much as it's like, hey, you saved your movie theater, man. Like, yeah, that is altruistic on some level, but it's self-serving. Like, I bought my own church is what I did. So I could go in it, and I could pray, or I could be prayed at, or prayed to, and shit like that. It's nice having a church where you're both Jesus and the priest at the same time. So for me, it'll never go away. And also we all watch movies differently now. As adults, the idea of like them sitting there talking through the movie as a director and as a movie a film exhibitor, I'd be manager Mike. I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. So all of it changes, and sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. But things only change as much as we let it. Change is inevitable and it's everywhere. But you can still kind of hold back in place. I don't mean in that middle-aged white guy kind of way of like, they're taking everything away from us. I mean, like, change is gonna happen, but like something like this, you can still make this happen in your life. You just gotta be willing to go to a fucking movie theater and stuff. And periodically we are. Like, if it's big now, we tend to go. If it's Deadpool Wolverine, that pulls us out. That's worth sitting with a bunch of strangers for. There's still hope. People still looking for that communal experience, man. Even as much as we're now siloed and used to being by ourselves and isolated, there's still a yearning for that. Religion has kind of collapsed in the country. From the time when I was a kid, a lot of churches and Catholic schools. Now, my church and Catholic school fucking closed, as well as the two in the neighboring towns where I grew up. So that sense of community, that sense of congregation is going out the window. School, shit. I heard one of the candidates say they wanted to fund the Department of Education. So who knows how much fucking congregation school is going to be left. During COVID, there was no congregation school. People siloed back at home. This is one of the only things left, man. Like this, concerts, NASCAR. Anything that people love enough to be like, I'm gonna fucking go.
Wrestling,
absolutely. So it seems like if you give people a reason to come out, big reason, like obviously like a brand new thing that they could only see in a movie theater, like Deadpool Wolverine, of course. Or if you, like what we do at our theater, like not just a movie, but hey, somebody could come out and talk, like tonight. Like, if I wasn't coming here talking, I doubt we would have had a sold out house, but I did, and here we are. So if you make it special, the audience will fucking show up. The trick is like to be a talented enough filmmaker, or I guess maybe a mainstream enough filmmaker that you can fucking tell a story that makes a bunch of people come back. Like fucking Greta Gerwig did, like fucking Chris Nolan did, like Tim Burton just did, like for the last few weekends with the Beetlejuice sequel and stuff. I'll never have that in terms of like, hey man, the whole fucking country's going. But I could do shit like this, where I'm like willing to stand there with the movie because I love it so much. Most filmmakers, make a thing and just let it go out there and do its thing. Like I always, what's his name? Fucking Fincher. One of my favorite filmmakers. And not just for the quality of his work, but because he makes a movie and puts it out there and you never fucking hear, you don't know anything about David Fincher other than the movies he makes, man. Maybe every once in a while you hear that like him and Ben got in a fight over wearing a Yankees hat or some shit. Other than that, you don't know shit about it, or his life, or what he thinks, or fucking what comic book movies he likes and stuff like that. So he can make a thing, put it out there, and let the work speak for itself. Like I'm the other filmmaker, where I make a thing and they're like, hold on, when it's over, let me tell you, I got a huge fight with Bruce Willis. There's a whole story. So, that over time has provided me a muscle that I wouldn't have if that audience wasn't willing to sit around and listen to me talk after the movie, which is, I can still do this. Not everywhere at once, but like, if I'm willing to show up at the movie, like, I could get some people's masses in seats and stuff. So I don't think it'll ever completely go away, that experience. I think it's going to become more of a premium. I don't think it'll ever be what it was back then. Can't put the genie back in that bottle, but it's like the record store, man. Like record stores thinned out at one point to the point of non-existence and then kind of rallied back, and now they got one in every major city and some small towns and whatnot. It's going to be rarefied for people who are way into this kind of thing. And a lot of people are into movies. And they're never going away. Some days they'll be more popular than others. But Jesus, if fucking a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic didn't kill this business, what will? I was trying to think of fucking what will. I got lost in thought. Kids, did you have a good time?
Thank you for coming.
If you like to do it all, my friends, it had everything to do with this man's performance.
It had everything to do with this man.
Actually, sorry, real quick, if you guys could just stay in your seats real quick, just for another couple of minutes while we...
And if you reach under them...
There's a cup.
Just need a couple more minutes. And also, we do have a screening starting really soon, so if you could pick up your trash when you leave, we'd appreciate it. But just hang tight. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Kids, many thanks for coming out, man. Means the absolute world. Thank you for spending time at the 4:30 movie with
Have fun, don't run.
family, and have fun, don't run. Tell all your friends, kids. Thank you all. Good night.
Real quick. Yes.